from the dream of a butterfly.
Thou hast committed an innocent sin, and shall be condemned to eternal punishment. You must now burn your dread.
In the pursuit of thy true self, beneath the mask.
What is Persona? Now, you can make an argument whether or not you've ever personally played the games. You've likely already embodied it in one way or another. The online handles we go by, nicknames in our friend groups, particular designations that we'd never be cool with our parents knowing that we go by, let alone addressing us as such, but around our own, it's intuitively, reflexively, us. In a way, you could argue the true self. The version that we create and don on our own, rather than the names handed to us at birth. A reaction, nay, a rejection against the life that we're forced into in pursuit of the one that we've decided for ourselves. A wise man once said, it's described as the armor you wear, the many faces you don as you interact and proceed through life. And I'd like to think that that's correct, but for some out there, their personas end up becoming more than that. Additional pieces of ourselves completing the whole in some instances, and others, well, I feel like some get consumed by their persona. Anyway, this isn't about that. This time around, Persona is in reference to a widely acclaimed, loved, and celebrated franchise spanning nearly 30 years now. Originally a spin-off series from the parent franchise Shin Megami Tensei. Think how Kingdom Hearts is from Final Fantasy. And I would consider myself a pretty avid Persona fan, like intermediate at worst. Just this year, I've had the pleasure, the privilege of playing through Persona 3 Portable, 4 Golden, 3 Reload, 5 Royal, and then 4 Arena Ultimax. And of those, if I'm being honest, Persona 5 is it's the reason I'm here even making this video now. Maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Maybe I should explain how I first made contact with Persona. The year is 2022. Persona 5 Royal is made available on the Xbox Game Pass. Not just Persona 5, but 4 Golden, 3 Portable as well. I've heard whispers, echoes in the ether, about Persona 5 Royal being a pretty darn good game. I mean, at the time, it was on every single Google search, YouTube, WatchMojo, tier list, and GameSpot article in regards to the best JRPGs of all time. Usually, Persona is ranked in the top 3, if not consistently, at the top of the list. Now what in the hell could Persona 5 Royal really have to offer me, the seasoned JRPG enthusiast? Well, let me tell you, a hell of a lot more than I could have ever asked for. Now see, Persona 5 leads heavily with its art direction, not just referring to the visual aesthetics, but its proper ear candy as well. And a bevy of funkalicious tunes are going to grace your eardrums with each and every single interaction and encounter, combat and otherwise, honestly. And so with such a heavily stylized offering, it's almost as though you get to star in the anime that's unfolding in front of you. And for me, it was April 14th, 2023, that I set out and began my ascension as a phantom thief. Starting off relatively simple enough, new school, first day bumped into some of the other kids, generally standard affair, but holy crap, when I tell you, this thing picks up the pace expeditiously, like you couldn't get to the point fast enough. Next thing I know it, I'm in the throes of a nearly international crime syndicate, pulling off a notorious heist, henceforth and forever known as the Vegas Incident. And that's where we're starting off this game? Oh yeah, count me in. Here's my issue though, the gameplay, the characters, the music, all of this is a completely delicious buffet. If you happen to enjoy the cuisine on offer. Not a moment of dullness, not a single patch of grass left untainted by the neon lights above. Persona 5 has style. Tons of it. It's an experience that you'll no doubt love, as long as that style's to your liking. And initially, that's exactly what I thought too. Though it had to be sometime late spring. Actually, after confirming, it's April 2023. There was a bubble beneath the ether of the internet. It was then and there that I caught wind of a remake for Persona 3. How exciting. Mostly, hearsay initially. Someone noticed a LinkedIn post from Sega looking for some seasoned developers for a new project, and most of the other news came from a quote-unquote reputable and established leaker, having also made a call-out for Persona 5 Tactica, so his credibility was pretty solid. However, in the aftermath of the entire thing, it seems that the Inside Man leaked out some footage from an early build in a brief flash that pause UI. Confirmed, there was indeed a remake for Persona 3 in the works. In that split second of shock and awe, for me, the tism took over. Before I knew it, I'd already convinced myself there'd be no point, no reason for me to play through the remake had I not gone back and played through the original Persona 3. Though, time of course being the best teacher. I'd later learn that Persona 3 Portable was actually a remake of the PS2 classic Persona 3 FES, and was also an Xbox port of P3P from the PSP. You get me? Cool. But that's, neither here nor there, okay? I played what the hell was available to me at the time. And so, I began my journey into Persona 3 Portable. Now all of the words from the forgotten dialects, many moons before our own, would still be inadequate in aiding me to convey to you how monumental this experience would end up panning out to be for me. Nor could I accurately tell you how many real-life hours that I've spent sitting here right in front of this title screen. Particularly because if you wait for long enough, not only does it show you the Persona 3 Portable opening, but it loops back around and shows you the original Persona 3 opening. Once I'd seen that, I knew I was in the presence of some real good old-fashioned, some quality gaming. The spirit, now awoken in me. The dog, even. I set off for Port Tatsumi Island. The next 120 or so hours that I'd experienced would soon go on to be some of the best gaming experience that I've had in recent memory, in my life, even at my unc-adjacent age. I was in shock. I was in disbelief. I was joyful even to be able to still be alive to partake of this experience. Junpei, Mitsuru, Akihiko, Fuka, everyone. Mina. This was amazing. As a matter of fact, it literally took me until like the last 2 or 3 weeks of in-game time before I was even aware that Tanaka, Social Link Tanaka, was also a character on the TV that you could buy stuff from on the Home Shopping Network. Mind you, I'd somehow gone over 100-something hours into this game, never once knowing about the Home Shopping Network until I caught it on accident. And I recognized his damn face, and I was like, that's, what? That's insane to me. So, honestly, at this point, I'm really wondering what else I might have missed. Unfortunately, his theme is so dang on-catchy. It ends up being my alarm clock for the next several months afterwards. And, depending on what day of the week it is, sometimes it still is. Shortly around the time of my completion of the game, Persona 3 Reload is released to the world. And I completely removed myself from all social media, blocked everything related to the game because I only wanted to see it with my own eyes. Untainted, fresh, brand new. After I'd consumed the source material. To this day, I'm really only like 25 hours or so into Persona 3 Reload, and I do have ambitions of coming back to it eventually. I'd even got like the deluxe collector's edition and everything on release. Trust me, there's no way I'm letting this bad boy out of my sight. Now, after completing Persona 3, on the male protagonist route, I will note, I do have ambitions, of course, of going back and completing the FemC route eventually, but for now, add it to the backlog. After my time with Persona 3 had come to a close, I moved on to the next chronological entry in my tism-fueled gaming expedition, Persona 4 Golden. From the coastal urban hub of Tatsumi Port Island to the quiet, rolling countryside of Inaba, the initial differences, the change in atmosphere and tone was startling. Dare I say the shift to the more 3D and interactable environment compared to the portable entry definitely brings with it its own fits of laughter. But under the surface of a seemingly simple and sweet little town, I discovered Peak. The adventures that I embarked on with Yosuke, Chie, Kanji, and everyone, to my surprise, left me mouth agape at some of the twists and turns of the story. The smaller, more intimate setting now giving breadth and room for much deeper experiences to take place within it. Everything from the inevitable onslaught of local businesses by capitalism from your local Juness, to riding around on our scooters after class, going to the beach, and even fighting tooth and nail to cancel the worst cable subscription service that mankind's ever had the displeasure of interacting with. And brother, don't even get me started with the music in this game. My playthrough of Persona 4 Golden, somehow, despite appearing to be one of the silliest, and genuinely thus far, the funniest entry in the franchise, has offered me some extremely insightful gameplay experiences, narratives, and memories today. A notable golden marker of the franchise and a staple for any real diehard Persona fan. What in the hell was there not to love? Well, okay, thinking about it, I could probably find a couple of things, but all in all, I'd save that for another video. After toppling 2 of the terrific 3, I turned my sights back to where it all began. Board a plane, bound to Tokyo, to reclaim my role as a Phantom Thief in Persona 5 Royal. Well, maybe that's not entirely accurate. For me, somehow, in the far recesses of my mind, I can still hear it. It calls to me. I couldn't tell you when exactly, but for the longest part of my life, I've had the Persona 1 theme echoing in the back of my head. Maybe I grabbed the UMD disc from GameStop on sale, maybe I traded one of my friends for it, maybe I'd purchased it on the PSN store. I know I definitely had a copy of Birth by Sleep, yeah, but I couldn't tell you exactly when or how it happened. But I still see the grid, the tree, that same purple butterfly. And somewhere, likely a memory from that point in time, obscured by trauma and otherwise lost to me, but despite it all, one way or another, Persona 1 still calls out to me. And honestly, between you and me, yeah, I think I'd like to take some time and chase that down, see what I find on the other side. But, for now, add it to the backlog. Eventually, after finally finishing all my sightseeing, writing a last couple of postcards and getting a few souvenirs before leaving out, I returned to the airport to head back to Tokyo, to resume my adventure in Persona 5. However, after landing, something was off this time around. Like for all the glitz and the glamour, the spectacle that the game beheld, it felt hollowed to me. Like upon further inspection in my hand, I'd not coveted gems, but rhinestones, bedazzled glass. Okay, I'm lying. That's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but in general, yeah, there was now a bit of a disconnect. After having spent so much time on what felt like these carefully curated spaces and rather seemingly confined experiences, due to the technical limitation, I would also like to say a good bit of how some of the older Persona games function was not just inhibited due to the technology at the time, but really feels to be more of a deliberate and stylized design choice. And in the same way how I said Persona 5 ends up being a bit of a buffet, as long as you like what they're serving, you're in great company. But after so much time away, my tastes seem to have turned a bit. Not that I could no longer enjoy what was being offered to me, but maybe out of fear that I'd gorged myself too much? Whereas I'd grown comfortable to the boundless starfield found in Inaba at night, or taking the train home and stopping by Paulownia Mall, maybe even having a quick afternoon study session and hitting up Tartarus that night. All of those experiences, they felt deliberate, intentional. We knew what the stakes were. We knew what was on the line. We were here with a job to do and lives to save, But in the same way how Persona 5 offers you endless style, flair, dazzling spectacle, it also brings with it what equates to being a buffet of suffering, a banquet of misery, an endless cycle of what almost ends up feeling like trauma porn. And after a while, I realized I didn't like that. I didn't like how that felt. It seemed that at every single turn, each person that I spoke with, each new friend, each new face was in a never-ending competition to one-up with each other in the I've had it worse Olympics. And that a lot of the stakes that we're dealing with, as serious and unfortunate as they may be, almost ends up being a bit of a desensitizing act. Hell, the very first lick that we hit is Kamoshida. I do not need to tell you what he's done. Allegedly. Did he do it? Absolutely. But that's very, very heavy for your tutorial, man. And not to divulge or give anything else away from the plot, because I will go on record and say that I have not yet completed my Persona 5 playthrough. And I do find it wholly unfair to judge this game prior to having seen all that it has to offer me. However, I guess I can say, maybe I took a closer look underneath those lights that were once so blinding and beautiful to look at. And what I saw, it frightened me a bit. Is it just me? Does no one else feel that compared to the smaller, not even necessarily antiquated, but certainly more intimate and slower paced experience of the previous two games? Whereas we go to Persona 5 and it's like off the deep end at 99 miles an hour through a flaming hoop, because it sure as hell feels like it. Also, another point that really kind of felt like it was illegal to admit, God, I hate Morgana. What an annoying, actual, complete kiss ass. Holy crap. Teddy is probably also on a registry somewhere, but like, you know what I mean? And maybe I just didn't give it enough time. Maybe I didn't give it enough room to breathe. Maybe Morgana becomes less insufferable, but oh, God, shut up, stupid cat. Koromaru wouldn't do me like this. Teddy wouldn't do me like this. Man, Anne does not like you, brother. You stink, okay? You lick yourself constantly. No one else is doing it. God, I hate Morgana. Holy crap. Okay, I had to get that off my chest. Morgana slander and hatred aside, I feel like I'd be remiss to leave this journey incomplete. And I can only hope that the game manages to win me back over after experiencing it again. And that's why, with a heavy heart, I decided to abandon my 180-hour playthrough that I was initially doing again on the Xbox because of Game Pass, but I decided to cut it in favor of the definitive experience of playing on PC. I managed to get past Noir's Palace before I ultimately stopped and began this whole retroactive gaming expedition. And though I've happened to personally find starting over a JRPG from scratch is almost as bad as starting an MMO from scratch, which is like death almost, I want to give the game a fair chance. And I was curious to know if it could catch lightning in a bottle twice. I definitely had my gripes with Persona 4, and if I thought hard enough, probably some with 3 too. However, all of this aside, I know for a fact, when I picked up Persona 5, I'd found something special. Hell, not even just me. Clearly, obviously, the critics, the fans, everyone knows that there's something to be treasured with this. And I'm not here to dispute that. I was just curious if anyone else had experienced what I like to call the Persona problem. With the inclusion of, or rather an opting for, the style, glitz, glamour Persona 5 has in abundance, did we lose out on some of the personal touch that the franchise had been known for, praised for thus far? I don't know, but it kind of feels like it. Like someone dying was a very large deal, like the worst thing that could possibly happen in 3 and 4. You know what I mean? That's like, crap. A hushed silence falls over the room. The atmosphere changes, but in Persona 5, every other palace, every other interaction is like, oh yeah, man, guess what? It's Tuesday. You know what that means? 100 puppies are trying to get paved over by the local bulldozer, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it unless you change his heart. Oh, you stopped him? Whew, thank God. Well, now to fire up the orphan incinerator since it's Saturday. What? Like, what? When everybody's dying and like there's a flood of bodies in the streets, and it's like, you're in first period. Like, that's crazy to me, man. That's so much. That's so much. That's so much. I don't know. I guess coming back to Persona 5 after retroactively going back to play 3 and then 4 and Arena Ultimax, I guess past a point it was like finally getting to see an old friend that you grew up with. your best friend. And realizing not only have the both of you grown up, but you guys have grown apart a bit. And maybe that's just the rust working itself off, right? Maybe after you guys break the ice and crack a couple of laughs and jokes, everything picks back up like it used to, right? I don't know. I can only hope. Either way, it's with great joy I'm happy to finally announce my Persona 5 Royal playthrough, because I feel like if I've got to sit through the next 100 or so hours of this all over again, really, so do you. And it can't be bad. That's the good news. The question is, can it be great? Will I fall in love again? I have no doubts about the music and the gameplay loop. Good God, but I guess past a point, I just wonder, is the magic still there? For me, at least. Well, there's really only one way to find out.
教えてやるよ。お前が振りかざしたくだらない正義。これがその慣れの果てだ。じゃあな。
For a while, I wondered, what if? What if I couldn't find my groove a second time? What if I didn't feel the same way that I did before? What if I had waited too long and I missed the moment that this was supposed to grip me? But also, what if it's still great after all? There's only one way to find out. So stay tuned for what I hope will be one last chance for the Phantom Thieves to steal my heart again.
Regret